Okay. Okay, brilliant. Okay, as I was saying, this focus group is to find out what you think about a new service that an energy provider is thinking of introducing. I'm not going to tell you who the energy company is just yet, but if you just bear that in mind, the service is about energy efficiency in your house. So we'll talk a bit more about that later on. But first off, if you could each introduce yourselves to the group, that would be really useful. So what I'd like you to say as you introduce yourself is, first of all, how you enjoy spending your time. Secondly, what sort of house you live in. And thirdly, how energy efficient you feel your house is personally. So let's see, I'll go with Ryan first, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Ryan. I'm a scientist. I live in Cardiff. I'm in a flat at the moment. It's reasonably energy efficient. I think is a rental, but is a reasonably new build. So I think it's quite energy efficient as it goes. Generally, I watch some live music, go to gigs, go to sporting events. It's what I spend most of my time doing.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thanks very much. That's great. And Mary, you want to go next?
Hi, I'm Mary. I live in a flat with a shop.
Mary, see me?
Hello?
Go ahead.
Do you want me to
Hi,
say it?
I think there may be. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Could you?
My name is Mary. I live in a flat. I work in a shop and I love watching films.
Brilliant. And could you let me know how energy efficient you think you're worried about with your house?
Very worried.
Okay. What particularly are you worried about? Why do you not feel your home is energy efficient?
I need to get new windows. I owe my electricity company a lot of money. I just, I put my heating on because I feel cold and I'm not going to switch it off. It's difficult out there, but yeah, I'm sure I'll learn about other ways to, anyway.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And Eileen, if you want to give a quick introduction.
Hi, I live in Surrey, just on the Surrey-Hampshire borders. We've moved to quite a rural location, and it's in a detached bungalow, so it's been an interesting one. I've only been here since May, and it's an interesting one as the weather's coming along at the moment. So I would say I'm learning about because parts of the bungalow are new and parts of the bungalow are old. So there's good and bad to energy efficiency. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm worried about it, but I think it's just going to be a winter. The first year in a property is always learning through everything. That's where I'm at. And what I like to do, to do sport, quite a lot of sport, running, that type of thing.
Brilliant.
And swimming.
Okay. Excellent. And Steve.
Oh yeah, I'm Steve. I live the East London, Essex kind of border, in a semi-detached house. Pretty much like Ryan, I love sporting events, going to see bands. It's not been easier last year or so because of a bit of an illness, which has limited my ability to do that. But I'm just learning to cope with not being able to do everything I used to be able to do. My home, it's It's, in theory, it should be pretty efficient. Like the insulations, they're a cavity wall and a loft and that. We've got double glazing, but it just always feels cold. And I just think there's a lot of wastage. I think there's a lot of room for improvement.
To say just before we get going is you're going to need a purple pencil. So could you just make sure that you have those of you?
Sorry, what did you say?
Do you have a pen and paper in
No.
front of you?
I'll get one. 1 second.
Excellent.
I don't know if anybody else is having, but seems to be a bit of a lag with communication. Is anyone else getting
Right,
it?
yeah, I thought that might be the case. Just to see how bad the lag is, would you mind putting your thumbs in the air when I say now? Eileen, sorry.
I heard you say that, but are you going to say it again? I heard all of that.
Yes, no. I meant when I said now. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Okay.
It's just like an intermittent lag, and that happens with different people as well.
Okay.
But I don't know if I'm the only one.
Right.
No, I'm hearing that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Same here.
So it's not my dodgy location in the middle of nowhere.
Interesting. Okay. All right. I might actually try that one more time. So after I say it, if everyone puts their thumb in the air. Okay. Now. Okay. Well, we're all right then.
Yeah.
It's not too bad, but yeah. Hopefully it won't be too much of an issue. All right. So we're going to explore this service. We're going to learn more about it as the session goes along. So we're going to start with a very sort of basic overview of the service, and then we'll learn more about it. So don't worry if you've got lots of questions about it at the start. We'll unpack it as we sort of go along. So I'm going to start off by sharing my screen, just showing you a very basic overview of the service. And what I'd like you to do is, just using your pen and paper, just write down what your initial impressions are of the service. So what sort of hopes or fears you might have about it, whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. Just write down a few notes and then we'll discuss it afterwards. Okay.
Can we make it any bigger, please?
Exactly. I can't see that
So
either.
can everyone see? Okay, let me try.
Rory, sorry, do you want me to share my version of this, because it reduced the lag on your I think your broadband is struggling for some reason today. And do you want me to share that?
Make it any bigger, please.
Exactly. I can't see that
So can
either.
everyone see? Yeah, I think that would be better, Sam, if you could share your screen.
Okay.
Let me try.
Rory, sorry, do you want me to share my version of this, because it reduced the lag on your...
That's better.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, that's better. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's brilliant. I'd love to have that done right now.
Okay.
Is this going to happen? Is this for real?
I'll just read out the service just to make sure that everyone's got the impression of it. And if you could all just write down your initial feelings about the service, and then we'll go through people's feelings afterwards. Okay. So The home health check from British Gas. Book a home visit from one of our energy efficiency experts to get a personalised energy saving plan. Our expert will come to your home, look at your energy usage, talk to you about your heating routine, and assess all the rooms. You will then receive an interactive, personalised report telling you how efficient your heating routine, home, and behaviours all are, and providing practical guidance on how to save energy and money. Okay, well, I'll just give you a few seconds to write down your initial thoughts on that, what you feel it might hope it might deliver for you, whether you've got any worries about it. Okay, so has everyone got something down for that?
Yep.
Excellent, brilliant. So Steve, I'll start with you. If you just want to tell me what your initial thoughts are about this.
First thought straight away, it sounds like a fantastic idea. You're getting a personalised assessment. It's going room by room. You're going to end up saving money and hopefully energy at the same time. My only concern is making sure the house is tidy before we get a visit.
No.
Everything else is fantastic.
Brilliant. Okay, sounds great. And what do you hope that it will deliver for you? Do you think that there are particular worries, any questions about your house that you'd like answered from this service?
Now, the only thing is, because sometimes the usage indoors is quite variable, because although my kids have all moved out, they do come back from time to time when the university term times finish and things like that, and also seasonally, Christmas they stay. So there's usage more at certain times of the year, but overall, I just think it's a really good idea.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Yeah, makes sense. Okay. And Eileen.
I think it's quite positive. I like the
Yeah.
idea that it being a person that comes and talks through your energy room by room, because like I say, this is first winter here and some rooms are better than others, warmer than others, cooler than others, what have you. It'd be interesting to have somebody here where you can talk through your behaviours, because sometimes you might think you're doing the right thing, but it could be the wrong thing, or confirm you're doing the right thing. And to have someone to give you some practical ideas, which hopefully, if needs be, could be solutions. I found this really appealing because as a long-term renter, we're heading towards now a 4th year of renting for a variety of reasons. And luckily we've been okay with landlords. But for me, this would give me peace of mind. I don't have to deal with the landlord, but I'm in control, and I would, book this and hopefully get some immediate answers. And you reap the benefits yourselves individually straight away. We do all our own bills and everything ourselves. We don't have to ask anybody who we go to or what have you. So instantly, if there's savings to be made, we would benefit from them. You're not tied into a landlord making a decision for you or anything. And also you'd have the benefit of changing habits that could be maybe that lifetime changing habits that you'd then take on elsewhere with you.
Brilliant. That's very comprehensive. Excellent.
So.
And Mary, what did you think of this?
I'm very impressed because the energy of the heat and electricity, this is the last thing I don't know anything about. There's so many new gadgets out there, and because of how the cost of bills, to have somebody do an unbiased come in and give you help and advice is very, very good. It's I can't think of anything negative to say about it.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's something I would want ASAP, because you never know these answers, really. These are experts.
Yeah. Okay. And Ryan, what did you think of it?
Yeah, it's tough not to echo everyone else, but it certainly sounds like a good thing. You're getting advice from people who know what they're talking about, and chances are they're going to find some good savings there, even if it's something as simple as, when you come home, you've got the heating set to be at a certain temperature, but in actuality, it sits there for half an hour before you get home. this is something that you might not know, but someone who does this literally day in, day out is going to know straight away. You might find that this sort of thing, it could save you 20, 30 quid a month, just like that.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay. So there's fairly unified response there. I mean, what do you think about the fact that it's from British Gas? If anyone feels particularly strongly about the fact that it's British Gas, they want to speak out about that.
Well, I have my boiler with them as a contract, and I think they're a good company now. I feel like they had a bit of a bad name before, but now they've become a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In what way have they become better, would you say?
I think, well, before they monopolised, years ago, like 25 years ago, they were one of the biggest companies. They went downhill. Now I feel that their name has become a bit more trustworthy.
Okay, excellent. Brilliant. Anyone else have any strong opinions about the fact that it's from British Gas?
I think it's
I think it's quite a
reassuring.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry,
Yes.
You go.
Steve, do you want to go first?
yeah, I
Steve?
think coming from a household name with a kind of a reputation for providing these kind of services for so long, that it's almost a guarantee of like quality and kind of really good reputation behind them.
Yeah.
I mean, we rent from a local authority, so I think they'd be more than happy to take on board such a company like British Gas to kind of help them implement all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. And Eileen, sorry, what were you saying?
I was going to echo some of that, but also for me personally, if I saw this versus a name that's maybe been around for a less time or a brand new company, I think if it was brand new, I'd be a little bit skeptical, you know, how accurate
Yeah.
or what else was the agenda. You can imagine, obviously, British Gas, if they were coming in, I'm assuming that they probably would like some kind of business to convert, but equally, you know, what they're saying I would take as valid and trustworthy.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, that makes sense. Excellent. And just, has anyone heard of any similar services to this one described here?
Not in that detail, no.
No? Okay, right. Excellent. And can anyone think of any, in fact, if we go around the group, and if you can just say whether there's any specific questions about your house that you would hope that this service would answer for you. I mean, Steve, you've already talked about that, but Eileen, do you have any sort of burning questions about your house and the efficiency in your house that you'd hope that this could answer for you?
Yeah, I do a little bit. So the kitchen, for example, has got no actual heating. We've got some really modern stuff and some not, but the kitchen hasn't got anything. So that becomes quite ice cold. So how, you know, other than just cranking up the heating, I've no other way of getting heat to the kitchen. And then I think tongue in cheek, I would say to him, I'm never going to give up my tumble dryer. Really, how bad is it? But each to their own, you know, I'm never going to give up the tumble dryer.
Yeah.
But is there any way of doing it slightly different for it not to cost gazillions? But I'd rather save in another area and still put the tumble dryer on for ease and busyness of life and things to be soft.
It's difficult to put things on the line at the moment, definitely.
Yeah. Especially we've got snow on the ground, so it's a little bit difficult.
Yeah, same here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And Mary, is there any questions that you'd hope this would answer for you?
It's just more of an efficient way. You know how to budget, and you're saving money. It's just a very good way to see things in a better perspective. So you're careful with your when you put the heating on, but you feel, you know, you want to become comfortable, but you also don't want to be thinking, you know, like even changing a light bulb, having LED light bulbs. So it's amazing what, you know, advice that you can be given can help you long run.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. And Ryan.
I think I'd be interested to know about how long my property would likely hold heat. So if there was some way that I could work it so that when I turn my heating off, I kind of know that I've got this 3-4 hour window where it's sort of comfortable. And then that would be the time that I'd maybe start to, you know, time it with when I'm going to bed, or potentially if I'm going out in the evening or something like that. I'd be interested to hear sort of, you know, what they think based on like the insulation and the windows, how long they think it would actually last, because that would be the sort of thing that you could implement pretty quickly that could make quite a big difference.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Brilliant. Okay, so that's kind of like an overview of the service. Sam, if you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So this is kind of a breakdown of how the service works. Can everyone see a slide saying the survey and the report there? Yeah. Okay, so I'll just read this out for you. And while I'm reading it out, if you could just think about whether this would be useful for you and which specific elements would be personally useful for you. Okay, so the survey, conducted by an engineer with qualifications in DEA and retrofitting, who will, number 1, assess your boiler, number 2, consult with you on your heating habits, number 3, read your meters, number 4, work through all your rooms and loft using thermal imaging to assess radiators and insulation, and number 5, check the quality of the water in your heating system or radiators. So the report is an interactive report available online that gives you a breakdown of how efficient your home is. It covers your boiler, radiator water, insulation, lighting, windows, appliances, and behaviors. And it also provides guidance on how to save energy and money, as well as information on the potential benefits of additional insulation and a wide range of energy-saving technologies, from insulation to boilers, to smart meters and thermostats, to solar panels, heat pumps, and home batteries. So after we've kind of gone into that service in a bit more detail, can anyone just shout out whether there's anything particularly surprising that they hadn't expected when I read out the initial description of the service? Anything that would be particularly useful for them?
I think I wasn't expecting so much
Yes.
from the screen to this page. It sounds like they're actually going to come and do a lot more work, physical work, checking the stuff and physically looking at different bits and pieces. I'd got the impression it would have been a walk around and a talk, but this is very appealing that they will go off and look at things like water quality in your house, the radiators. One of our rads in one of the bedrooms, for example, is really noisy. But as a rental property, you don't deal with things necessarily in the same way as years ago when we owned. So I think this would be really beneficial to have that much sort of work and detail going around, looking at all the various boilers, radiators, insulation, the water quality, everything. Brilliant. Okay,
interesting. I mean, so you say it's really useful to see it in detail. You mentioned boilers and radiators. Was there a specific thing that you were hoping that they'd be able to tell you?
No, not necessarily. Safety, I guess, isn't it? As much as anything else. And obviously, most landlords, you hope, would check these different bits and pieces. But again, for yourselves, like I say, we moved in May. We didn't put the heating on. We didn't know we had a banging radiator until it started banging in the winter. I think the report element, though, of it was a bit of an eye-opener, because as a rental or rentee, whatever I'm correctly called, some of those, if there were recommendations, some of those made me a little bit nervous that they could be quite hefty in costs, or like solar panels, you may have to be longevity before you get any benefit. But equally, if I was to pay some money to have something now that as a renter I instantly received the benefit of, if I've done a financial outlay, then that's different. You have to be open-minded to that for sure.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's worth pointing out, we're doing these groups with people who own houses as well as people who are renting. But the British Gas are interested in seeing whether this would appeal to renters as well.
Sure, definitely I would.
Yeah, Mary, I think you're about to add something there.
I mean, this is very specific, and I feel it's a bit unnecessary, all this stuff with a renter, but it is more geared towards owner of a property, with something like solar panels, heat pumps. But the general idea of this is for everyone, and it's really good because you know, whether you're renting or owning, you still want to save money.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So I very much like it, and if this was going on now, I'd call them up. But do you have to be with British Gas to have it? Is this something you pay one-off for, or how does this work?
This is something I was going to say. In terms of the payment, the way it would work is that you'd pay an initial payment to have the survey done, essentially. So that's separate cost to have the survey and the report. And then they could offer you separate technologies as well. We'll talk later on more about the actual cost of the service. I won't tell you how much it is yet. But is there anything else here that is surprising just about the service itself? That I mean, Ryan, do you find anything surprising about what it's offering you here?
I was surprised it included the sort of the thermal imaging. Don't get me wrong, it makes sense as to why it's there. It's just not something that I thought would be part of it. I think they're definitely going into more depth than I would have expected. Although now hearing that this is going to be a out of money, a money out of pocket type of situation, maybe there's an element of sort of giving you what your money is worth, as opposed to someone popping around for 10 minutes and sort of looking up and down the rooms. If you're paying, you know, to just throw a number out there, 100 quid, then maybe you would want to feel like you got something a bit more of substance from that visit.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, you say it's good that they're doing it in detail, but is that specifically something that you would be interested in, the thermal imaging?
Oh yeah, I'd be really curious about that. But then, more as a curiosity point, I don't know what I would particularly do with that information. Maybe I could rearrange some furniture or something, but if nothing else, it would just be a point of interest, I think.
Okay, excellent. Brilliant. Okay, so Sam, would you mind going to the next slide? Yeah, that's perfect. So basically, British Gas want to find out, you know, what is most appealing about this service to you, so they can talk about it in an appealing way. So they've come up with these 4 reasons that they think renters specifically, rather than homeowners, might find this service appealing. So I'm just going to read these out. And while I'm reading them out, I'd just like you to think about which of these you find most and least appealing to you personally. Okay, so I'll read these. So A, understand how to optimize your heating system to save money while staying comfortable. B, discover the simple, surprising changes you can make to your home and lifestyle that will add up to big savings. C, see if you could benefit from smart ways to track and control your energy usage. And D, see how energy efficient your home is compared to others. So what I'd like you to do is actually rank these benefits in terms of which you think would be most useful for you if they could deliver this, and which would be least useful. So, you know, A, B, C, D, or A, B, D, C, whichever ranking would be best for you. This is assuming that they could definitely deliver on each of these benefits. Okay. Okay, has everyone had a chance to note down the order of those?
Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. I'll just go around. If you could just read out just the order of the letters. So, Steve, what have you gone for?
I've got BACD.
BACD. Okay, and Eileen?
I've got BA and then C and D are a slash because they're both the same.
Okay. I mean, if I had to force you to choose one of them, which would you say? What order would you put them in?
Oh, BADC.
BADC. Okay,
Just.
excellent. Mary?
BACD.
Okay, and Ryan?
ACBD.
Okay. Right. Okay. Interesting. So, Ryan, you're the only one who has gone for A as the top one. I mean, there was it's fairly similar responses from everyone, but just curious about that. Why was that your top reason for it being useful for you?
Well, I think still using your heating and having a comfortable house is sort of really the goal. You want as comfortable a house for as little money as possible, and that's essentially what A is saying. You're looking to get to a situation where you're heating your house as little as possible to be as comfortable as possible, and that's what I want, pretty much.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, everyone else had that as their second option. Is there anything else they want to add to that?
Sometimes I just crank the heating to be comfortable. I don't always think with the extra part of that sentence or that goal necessarily where I'm conscious about what it's costing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but sometimes you just go, I need to be warm when you forget what it, yeah. So that's why I didn't put it first.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. And so everyone else put B as their top option. So does anyone want to say why B felt like something that would be very important to them?
Because we want something simple and changes. It's just the great words and it's just appealing.
Yeah. In what way is it appealing to you? How do you imagine that
They will add up big savings. It's just
what sort of changes do you imagine that they might recommend? What sort of advice do you think that they might give you?
Things like, for me, well, I know new windows need to be put in here.
I suppose another way of saying it is, in what way could they give you advice that you don't think that you could get anywhere else, like online? Why would this be better than looking up any changes that
they know their stuff. They've got the knowledge. Hopefully you trust them and they know what they're doing.
Okay. Yeah. And Steve, do you have any other reasons why B is something that would be worthwhile?
No, it's just because you big savings from little changes, and you want simplicity. You want to end up saving a bit of money. So, yeah, it's a simple win.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, excellent. All right. I think we'll explore these in a bit more depth. Sam, would you mind going to the benefits board for B? Okay, so essentially what this is these are called proofs. They're ways that British Gas might bring into the real world how this would benefit you. So ways that they might explain why these different benefits would be useful to you. So I'm just going to read these out, and as I'm reading them out, I just want you to make a note of any in particular that you feel would be useful to your life. Okay, so B1, a report that takes into account your lifestyle. The engineer will consult with you on your routine and how you use your appliances to provide a tailored report that takes all of this into account. B2, a personalized money saving advice. For example, lowering your thermostat by 1 degree can save up to £250 a year. Washing clothes at 30 degrees can save up to £34, and so on. B3, understand if small improvements could save you money. For example, better insulation for your water cylinder could save you up to £100 a year, and switching to LED bulbs could save you up to £135 a year. B4, discover better value energy tariffs. For example, see if you could save money by 2-rate night and day tariffs, and by putting your washing or drying on late at night. And B5, guaranteed savings. If you don't achieve the projected savings from behavior changes or adoption of technologies, so Hive, LED lights, and so on, then we'll refund you the cost of the survey. So I'll just give you another minute just to think about those and take a note of any in particular that resonate with you. Okay. So if anyone feels particularly strongly about one of these and they just want to let me know which it is and why that might be the case.
I like
B1.
B1.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, Mary, if you could go first.
I like B1. I like it that it's a personal thing about your lifestyle. That is really, really kind of special because, everyone's different. People come indoors all different times. People use facilities, wash different times.
Yeah.
So that appeals to me.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and how do you imagine this might be delivered for you, if that makes sense? How do you imagine this might happen in the real world for you?
Sorry, what do you mean? How?
So how do you imagine that this service might benefit you personally?
Don't know.
Do you do anything specifically that you feel that they would need to take into account?
Not really. I'm not like, I'm quite an average, I just, work 9 to 5, have a bath every evening. I'm trying to think. I switch the heating on when I come in, but it is on a timer in certain rooms.
Yeah.
I just, I put the heating on if I'm cold, and I don't, I like if I buy food, I want the nice food. I just have to have it, and then I think about the money another time, because as I say, I owe my electricity company a lot of money, so
Okay.
I can't think of anything specific that will make my case odd or different.
That's fine. There doesn't necessarily have to be anything specifically.
No.
I'm just curious. Yeah. And sorry, Steve, what were you about to say?
Yeah, because some of the stuff on I think B2, 3 and 4, it's stuff that's pretty much out there, it anyway. And where it says on B2, personalised money saving advice, that there's a lot of tailored advice, not tailored, just general advice about lowering your thermostat by 1 degree, washing your clothes at a lower temperature. That's out in the open anyway. So B1, where it takes into consideration your lifestyle, it might say, taking into account your working patterns, you can work around that and actually make real genuine savings related to your situation.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so do you imagine that B2 would be, does that sound like it would be a bit generic, the money saving advice from the way it's described there?
justify the examples they're giving, yes. But obviously, if they're coming around to do an actual a personalised report, they might bring up something a little bit more different. But just as an overview, it sounds a bit generic here.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And Ryan, what do you think of the of these proofs? Are there any that you feel would be useful to you personally?
I quite like B5. So, essentially the refund if you don't get the savings that they sort of suggest you might. I mean, I think it's quite fair because they are putting their money where their mouth is, but also it's quite an easy thing to track. So obviously your energy use, it is going to them. They have a record of it. It's pretty easy for them to give you what you spent last year versus this year. And it would be a pretty straightforward way for you to be able to see, well, actually, these changes have made a difference. So I think it makes sense that they're willing to offer that.
Yeah, okay. That's interesting. Yeah. Brilliant. Excellent. Okay. That all makes a lot of sense. Sam, would you mind going to the slide A? That's perfect. Thanks very much. Excellent. So I'm just going to read these out, and the same kind of thing. If you could just make a note of any of these that you feel would be particularly helpful to you and your lifestyle. So A1, a fully personalized report. The engineer will visit your home, look at your energy usage, talk through your needs and routine with you, and then provide a report that takes all of this into account. A2, get your radiators working optimally. Thermal imaging shows how well each radiator is working, and the engineer will identify the reasons why some aren't working optimally. A3, personalized advice on settings and schedules that takes into account what temperature you like to have your home at and how you use your heating, when you turn it on and off, and what temperature you set it at. A4, the engineer will make changes then and there that will save you money. They can bleed your radiators, adjust your boiler settings or temperatures to save you energy, or even adjust or unroll the insulation in your loft. A5, guaranteed savings. If you implement changes to your settings and schedules, but don't achieve the minimum savings projected by the report, we'll refund the cost of the survey. And this one requires a smart meter. So does anyone immediately have any of these proofs that they would really be grateful for themselves?
I mean, A1 is good. Personalised report.
Yeah. How do you imagine that would benefit you?
Well, it's coming to the home, looking at your energy usage, routine with you, just going through everything that you do, which lights, when you have baths, etc. What time, when you wash your clothes using the washing machine. I mean, you can't get better than that, providing a report that takes it all into account.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you imagine, how might you use that report personally?
You just go through what you're doing every day and try and assess, should you put the washing on at these times? Yeah. Some people say that, it's better to put the washing machine on throughout the night. Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Any particular use cases here that you would find useful?
I think number 2, I'd echo what's been said on number 1. You'd have somebody go around with you, you can implement those changes. Number 2 really is, other than saving in number 1, number 2 really is the only one that stands out with anything that's not already, I would say, common sense. It'd be great to actually them to turn around and say to you, this radiator's working at 70% or what it should be or what have you. So that would be really good to then, if you needed to make some changes, and then I would imagine that would make everything a lot better. Say, for example, if you've got a couple poor performing, they're probably draining everything else, get them all working, and then maybe the heat will be more evenly balanced, and you could maybe even turn things down to get that even balance. Some of these others I just found a little bit that, because you know, if you're, for example, if you've got a house full of people where they turn the lights on all the time, it's very easy for someone to come in and say, turn your lights off a bit more. You're going to make an instant saving. But if you don't live, do you know what I mean? If there's not a very obvious one, I'm not sure how you'd if people are being quite sensible, how you'd make some of these guaranteed changes without them maybe making sacrifices for them to maybe turn around and say you can only wash every other day or washing machines or something. But if that doesn't fit in a household, you just couldn't implement that change without serious sacrifice.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
You know, if you had to turn your heating off 2 hours a day, there's no point sitting there freezing. You're not going to do it.
Exactly. That's right.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I was saying earlier. I just put these. It's good to know, but sometimes you just got to do it, and you know it's essential now to have the heating on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any other of these that resonate with people? Steve, Ryan?
For me, I think they've all got their benefits. But as Eileen said, 2 for me stands out because I've been living here for far too long and no one's once come around and optimised the radiators.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just something like as simple as that, which I haven't got the skills to do it and the knowledge to do it. So someone coming and doing that and making instant changes, that'd be great. But yeah, but they've all got their strong points.
Yeah, makes sense. Ryan, is there anything here that particularly resonates with you?
I like number 4. I think if you've got an expert wandering around your house and they can make some quick changes literally as they're there, that's brilliant. You know, they might be very small things. They might be things that I could have done myself, but the fact of the matter is it's quite cool having someone go around and go, oh yeah, you should bleed that radiator. Oh, actually, I'll just do it for you.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Brilliant. Okay. So all of you rated C and D as your least most popular options. I'm just going to go through both of them really quickly. I'll just read them both out. And if any of the use cases particularly appeal to you, if you could just shout stop and explain why you would find that useful in your life. Okay, so Sam, if you would go to board C. Okay, so this board was about seeing if you would benefit from smart ways to track and control your energy usage. So C1, see if a Hive smart thermostat could benefit you by giving you more control over your heating and schedules. And if it is likely to save you money, costs £179 and can save up to £311 a year. Plus, you can take it with you when you move. C2, discover ways to get even more from your smart heating. For example, smart radiator valves that allow you to control radiators in individual rooms and which can be taken with you when you move out. C3, access the latest tech at great prices. Buy technologies from British Gas or one of our partners and get a 10% discount and know you're buying proven technology. C4, feel more in control of your costs and usage. See if you could benefit from a smart meter and or energy management app that allows you to track your usage and see how much different appliances cost you. And C5, access ongoing support from British Gas when you buy technology through us or one of our partners. And we'll check in with you after 6 months to make sure it's working as expected. So is there anything on that board that particularly appeals to any of you?
The smart radiators, valves, things, they could be good.
Okay, why is that?
Just because you'll have an idea if you want specific ones on, rather possibly than everyone, and if some are working better than others, and obviously it's a portable item.
Yeah, that makes sense. Are there any others that anyone has particularly appealed to? No, doesn't necessarily have to be. Sam, would you mind going to the slide D? Okay, so this one was about seeing how energy efficient your home was compared to others and how you could improve this. So D1, know if you're wasting money unnecessarily. See if your boiler and radiators are working properly, if your rooms are well insulated, and how much this is costing you. D2, see how your home compares to others in your neighborhood. Find out how efficient your home is compared to others like it. Use this to put pressure on your landlord to make improvements. D3, identify quick fixes that even renters can make, where draft excluders might help, how to keep heat in by keeping curtains closed, or how to get more from radiators by ensuring they're not covered or blocked. D4, boiler health check. See whether your boiler is working properly and will last you the winter. D5, a clear list of recommendations to share with your landlord so they see what needs to be done to improve efficiency and keep your bills down. So is there anything there that people think that they would find really useful?
I think D3 for me.
D3, yeah.
Yeah,
Why is
because
that?
as a renter, just little quick fixes straight away would be great.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense. Sorry, I was looking at my notes there. Who said definitely?
Me. I
Yeah,
just
that'll be
quick
the same
fixes.
for
I
you.
we all like a quick fix, don't we?
Yeah,
Draft excluders. I'm just thinking I need to get some of that. It's reminding me.
yeah, that makes sense. Anything else here on this board that's appealing to people? No? I mean, it might be worth saying the reason that they've included this as a separate board is they're wondering whether it would be useful to basically have this data to present to your landlord in order to pressure them to make changes. I mean, does anyone think that that might be a useful thing for them?
In theory, yes.
Theory. Okay, why only in theory?
Because, you know, as much as you'd want your landlord to actually make them changes and implement it, because in the long run, it would benefit them. You just don't know if they're actually going to take that on board or just dismiss it and think, oh, it's not my problem at the moment, or I've got too much on my plate, or it's too much of an outlay. So, yeah, you're kind of stuck between what you want and what they actually want to implement.
Sure. Yeah. Does anyone feel differently about that? No? Okay, yeah, that does make sense. Okay, brilliant. So we've gone through a lot of the different use cases there. I mean, it sounds quite clear you want to have, quick, simple fixes. You want to know where the energy is being lost in your home, things that you wouldn't be able to necessarily see very quickly, and you want the engineer to show you what changes you can actually make to your house. Just curious, if you consider all of those benefits about the service, I want you to think about how you might basically sell this service to yourself. Now, it sounds obviously a bit strange, but if you could imagine what would be the ideal sales pitch that would make you want to invest in this service if you knew nothing about it initially? So I'll give you a minute just to write down a few notes on what would be just, a sort of 30-second pitch to convince someone exactly like you to invest in this service. Okay, so I might just stop you there. So Steve, how would you pitch this to yourself?
It's just a personalised report leads to simple changes that you can make, you can suggest to your landlord. But in the long run, you are going to make genuine benefits, and it is actually relevant to you. It's not a generic thing, which, you know, a lot of these stuff, like they give out advice and you think, well, that doesn't really apply to me. Because this is personalised, you are going to actually find some kind of tangible benefit in here in the long run.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Brilliant. Excellent. And Ryan?
So I'd be focusing on the money savings, both long and short term. So with a report like this, you'd be able to make sure that you are sort of squeezing every bit of efficiency out of your property, because you might not be able to get your landlord to make the sort of subtle or slight changes that actually do require an investment. But if someone comes around and tells you that, you know, your heating actually only needs to be on for 3 hours instead of the 5 hours you've got it set to, and you're not going to notice the difference, those are really tangible benefits that are going to benefit you very long term.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Eileen?
I'd say that it was a personalised, thorough, all-over house check for usage and wastage potentially of your efficiency and dealing with efficiency, and that you'll receive advice on changes and offer solutions, some of which could be available on the spot if necessary.
Yeah, makes sense. Brilliant. And Mary?
I put down amazing new service from British Gas to help you save money, which is personal to how you live.
Very nice and sweet. Brilliant. Thanks. Excellent. Okay, so you've all talked about personalization as a key thing there. That's very interesting. Excellent. Brilliant. Okay. Sam, would you mind sharing the end benefits slide? Okay, so keeping in mind, you know, what those benefits might be to you for this service, and assuming that this service would deliver on all the things that we've discussed, could you just have a read through these different feelings? These are different end benefits, so ways in which you would feel if you had this service and it was working well for you, and just shout out which of these you might be feeling if this was working for you. So I'll give you a while to have a look through those, and then we'll go in turn, and just let me know which of those you might be feeling. Okay, so Steve, what would you say? It doesn't necessarily have to be from this list, by the way. If you don't agree with any of them, that's also fine.
There's four that stand out to me. First of all, is being more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty key, because now we all want to make changes, but sometimes you're hampered by like your housing providers and stuff like that, your landlords.
Yeah.
And I think the less anxious part comes into play with that. Once you're making savings, and once you can see like you're saving a little bit of money, things a little bit more kind of efficient indoors, you are less anxious. The other thing I like is on the way to net zero, because you're not only benefiting yourself, everyone's got to move to being more kind of environmentally friendly, and this is key.
That's interesting. Okay, yeah. When you was talking about being less anxious, was that just, I mean, anxious about what would you say?
I think life in general is stressful, and particularly at the moment when prices are going through the roof. There seems to be no end in sight in when things are going to actually kind of like taper off and come back to a bit of normality. So, yeah, I think life in general is anxiety ridden, and the cost of living crisis is exacerbating that in general. And any little savings you make, particularly around home, you can actually feel the benefit and see the benefit. Yeah, it is a little bit of lesser anxiety than, but it's not much, but it's a little bit, and little steps build
Okay.
up to be big steps in the end.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just curious because you talked about net zero and being self-sufficient. I mean, is any of that anxiety associated with the environment, or is it more to do with financial anxiety, would you say?
It's more financial anxiety. I mean, we all want to strive to be more environmentally friendly, but obviously because of like the way that things are going in the world at the moment, it has to take a little bit of a back seat financially at the moment, unless you're in like that kind of financial position where you're comfortable.
Yeah.
You have to make shortcuts here and there. Much I don't want to, because I've got kids. I know they moved out; they're all older, but you know, I still worry for their future.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's more financial driven at the moment, but in an ideal world, environmental credentials would play a massive part. Just at the moment, it's like it's kind of wishful thinking rather than kind of a determined focus on it at the moment.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. And so was that all the feelings that you wanted to you would hope to feel from this?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. And Eileen, what do you hope that you might feel as a result of this service?
One of the words that springs to mind that I didn't see on there necessarily was relaxed, because you for me, if the survey had been done yesterday or this morning and all the different bits and pieces had been done, you'd know, and you and I were now having this conversation, I'd be relaxed thinking, well, my radiators are working efficiently, I am doing things correctly, and that could have been confirmed if you were doing what you would carry on doing what you were doing, or if changes have been implemented, you are then in a relaxed position to move forward thinking, right, I'm then doing the best I can to be self-sufficient, doing what I personally can to be moving towards net zero. You're in control, you're confident in the way that you're living day to day. And for all of this, there's always going to be like a unique way of doing things that all of us are still going to do something that goes against this, but you're relaxed in your own little lifestyle. And that would, rather than if, for example, you haven't had this survey, you don't necessarily know what some of your elements are up to, your boilers or your radiators efficiency, and if you were leaving lights on willy-nilly, or you're putting heating on an hour before you come home, that type of thing. And I don't mean in a smug way. I mean that, like in a confident, relaxed way, and which I think actually, for a lot of people too, I would say is a really good thing, because some people, that's going to really adjust lifestyle and mental health and everything, because you're going to go, I'm okay, I've done what I can, I'm doing the best I can, and you've had that confirmed.
Yeah.
So you'll know where you're at with your bills, you'll know where you're at on a day-to-day basis, and hopefully, like I say, I'm never going to give up my tumble dryer. I do a lot of running. I come back sometimes covered in mud from head to toe. You can't just wash that stuff on 20 degrees and hope it's going to come out, because it just doesn't. But you don't have to wash everything on a high temperature, So we've all got our things that we do that aren't necessarily brilliant, but everybody's got to live still as best as we can.
Yeah, no, that definitely makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Hopefully.
Mary, what did you think? Did you have the same thoughts, or were there any new words that it would make you feel?
I mean, I like the idea of protected, in control, less anxious, more for me, because I'm always stressed out about everything.
Yeah. Okay. And when you talk about anxiety, is that similar kind of reason to Steve was saying in terms of your finances?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. And Ryan, which of these or other words would it leave you feeling?
I think the one I'd go with is clever. Throughout all of this report, this expert walking around, everything is kind of pushing you towards knowing more about the way your energy is used, about the way your house or flat actually operates in terms of its heat. So I think it's actually going to leave you very well informed, very clever with respect to things that you might have been quite, ignorant of previously. So you're actually going to be in a much better position because you're going to be much more knowledgeable.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Brilliant. Okay, that's a good kind of mix, different words. Sam, would you mind going on to the next slide? So we're not going to go into this in a lot of detail. You'll probably be pleased to hear. One thing I do want to point out is the box highlighted in blue. So I mentioned that we're also talking to homeowners as well as renters. And basically all the things in blue are things we haven't really talked about in this, but we feel would be more suited to homeowners than renters. I'll just read this box out, and if you could just let me know whether you think any of this would be relevant to you, that would be useful. Okay, so new technologies, how well suited your home is to solar panels, heat pumps, and batteries, how technologies can work together, the cost of buying and installing everything from smart heating and insulation to solar panels and heat pumps, how long it takes for each technology to pay for itself, what's required to become self-sufficient, so less reliant on the grid, how much carbon you could save by adopting new technologies. So do any of those features appeal to you necessarily?
Number 17 could be applicable to as a renter or a homeowner.
Okay. Do you have any technologies in mind when you think about that?
No, not really, because I have to say it's not my chosen subject necessarily, but I do know, for example, that, like, just generally listening to live solar panels, I believe that the return on them takes longer, whereas some of the others, I can imagine some of the other examples you had earlier, if you were to buy them today, you could start making instant savings maybe on some of them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. I mean, would you be interested in investigating solar panels, or is that something you're not considering? Or
probably not, because if you were to move out in a year or two's time, I can't imagine taking them with me. And that's the thing, when you're renting, your mindset is very different. But if, for example, let's just say I could put them on our bungalow currently for £100, fine, I'll take that hit. But if you were talking thousands, I wouldn't want to enhance somebody else's property in that way. And then equally, if I was to have a different device that was portable, then maybe you would consider paying a higher price. So we knew years ago, we knew 4 years ago we were going to be renting for a fair few years. So say, for example, back then, if I could buy something to take from house to house that cost a lot of money but would save you a lot more money, then yeah, you'd buy it maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Portable element's the key there.
Sure, yeah, I can imagine. What about everyone else? Is there anything there that appeals to them?
I think 15, I mean, see how technologies can work for you. As Eileen said, if there was a kind of a cost-effective way to implement some kind of technology for rental property, and the outlay wasn't too extortionate, I'd consider it. But yeah, something like solar panels are, they're a huge outlay, and for someone who's renting, it's just not feasible.
Yeah. Okay. Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, Sam, would you mind going to the next slide? Sam, hello? Would you mind? There we go. Okay. So just a couple more things that we're going to go through very quickly. I know it's quite late, and I'm very grateful for you all paying such great attention. But essentially, this is a mock-up advert that they might have on a bus shelter, for example. I'm going to read it out loud. Don't worry quite so much about the lack of images on this. If you just focus on the language of the message itself, I just want you to think about everything we've discussed about this service and your understanding of it so far. and just think about whether this description does the service justice, or whether you think it should focus on anything else in order to make it most appealing to you. So I'll read it out, and I'll give you a minute to write down a few notes, and then we'll take in your thoughts. So it says, let us help your home become more energy efficient. Get a personalized home health check and energy saving plan from our energy efficiency experts, and you could save up to £300 per year on your energy bills. Get your own personalized report to help you on the journey to a more energy efficient home. So, I mean, just are there any initial thoughts about that, about things that they could have, that they've missed out on, or things that they don't agree with?
Oh God, I think it's great. And I think it's absolutely spot on, apart from the last sentence where it says, help you on the journey to a more efficient, energy efficient home. To me, that makes it sound like it's going to be something further in the future. We're talking sort of longevity of a situation. Whereas if you dropped out the word journey, just to help you to a more energy efficient home, ties in with what we said earlier about the guide being there, being able to tweak things there and then. And that's for me, was part of the appeal, that if this was live, that they can just come in and help you instantly.
Yeah.
But the rest of it's brilliant.
Okay. What does everyone else think? Is there anything about this that, I mean, what are your initial reactions? What would it make you feel if you saw this in a bus station, would you say?
I don't like it when they say you could save up to £300 per year, because that's always such an exaggeration.
Okay. 300.
When you put down a figure, it's never, that amount.
Okay.
It's not to do with you personally. You could be saving £50 or 100, but when you say up to 300.
Yeah. I mean, one other way they're thinking of framing this is by saying you could save on average
That's
about
better.
£250. Would that be more appealing? Yeah.
Yes. More real, isn't it?
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. And Steve, I think you were about to say something as well.
Now, the only thing that really springs to mind is because it says British Gas, I always make you think, because that isn't my supplier at home, would I be eligible? And also, how much would it cost me?
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Because it's not clear that it's just see, I don't have gas, so you could be forgiven for thinking it wouldn't apply to me.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. Ryan, is there anything that you feel that it's missing out on, that it could be telling us that it's not?
I think it's got to be the price. I mean, the fact that it's not there makes me suspicious of how much it costs, let's say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Brilliant. Yeah. Okay. Sam, would you mind going on to the next slide? Okay. So these are a couple of alternative names that they might have. Could you just, I'll read these out in a second, but could you just let me know whether any of these would be more appealing to the home health check? So we have got the home health check, the home energy experts, the energy efficiency experts, and the energy efficiency home check. So do any of these sound more appealing than the home health check, the bottom three ones?
No, I like the top one.
Me too.
Okay. I mean, what is it that you like about the title? Or it could just be that you don't like it. The word health, why is that?
Because it makes it sound more thorough. It's not just about going around turning lights off. We're actually checking if things are okay, and that's what this is.
Okay, that's really interesting. Yeah.
Because energy efficiency is like, turning everything down and off and less and all that sort of thing. This could be going regardless of how much you're turning your lights on, or your radiators are really badly performing. So that's like, like a service and MOT on your car, or a health check on the body sort of thing.
That's really interesting that you talked about an MOT. Yeah, one or two other people have said that as well. I mean, I know you've already kind of talked about it, but
okay.
What about an MOT reminds you of this?
I would say MOT/service, because both of those it's a checklist, isn't it? But sometimes they discover other things. And the word health is not a bad word to bring in from a body point of view, because we've all at some point in our lives gone in and gone, oh, my shoulder hurts, and actually it's not your shoulder, it's something else. Or you find other things by talking to a doctor, or that you send your car in and they find other things. But an MOT is a safety thing as well, which is no bad thing. We all have it for a reason on the vehicles. And equally, your car can go in for a service, but if they don't always then look at the same things you get on an MOT. Whereas that's the appeal here. If they were just to come in and be energy efficient, to say, turn your heating off because you're turning it on 2 hours before you come home, your radiators could still be knackered, or your boiler could still be rubbish.
Yeah.
It's like they're two different services or type thing.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, brilliant. And very last thing. So I'm going to ask you to write down 2 figures in a second. The first figure, if you could think of the highest cost that this could be, but you would still consider paying for it. So knowing everything that you know now about the service, what would be the highest possible cost that you would consider paying in order to have this service done?
Is this
So if you could just write that down. What's that, sorry?
Is it a monthly fee, or is it a yearly one you want us to write?
This is just to have the survey done. So it's just a single fee to have this service done. One thing I should make clear, you don't have to guess exactly what this service actually costs. This is really individual to you. So if you hate the service and you're not interested at all, it could be 50p, but if you love the service and you think, actually, you know what, I'd pay as much as £150, then that's also fine. So, it's not what you assume the service would cost, but just how much you personally, the maximum you'd be willing to pay, you would be willing to consider paying for this. So if you just write that down, first of all. Okay. And then once you've written that down, could you also write down a second price, which is the price at which this would feel like a bargain, like good value, like a sort of no-brainer thing to do? Okay. So Steve, what are your 2 prices?
So as a renter, the most I pay at the moment is 40 for the assessment, and a bargain would be £15.
15. Okay. I'll just collect in all the prices first, then we'll look at them in a little bit more detail. Okay. And Eileen?
I've put 150.
Yeah.
And then 79.99.
Okay. I like it. It's very specific. Okay. And Mary?
£150, half price.
Okay. Yeah. And Ryan?
So £100 and £40.
Okay. Okay, interesting. So we've got a bit of a mix there. So Steve, you said you wouldn't pay as much as the others. I mean, why would you not consider paying any more than £40?
I mean, I do actually love the service, and I probably would consider paying more. But looking at the potential savings over the year, I mean, £300 per year was up to.
Exactly. It's hardly worth you're spending a lot for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it seems if you paid 100, 150, it seems an awful big outlay for one off.
So you might not get anything back. You might be doing it okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And Eileen, I suppose you went for the highest price that you would consider paying. Why do you think it would be worth that amount?
For a couple of reasons. One, I saw it as you pay that out, but you could then be equipped for several years, for several properties, for lifestyle. So do you know what I mean? You get a chunk for your money in that respect. It's not just I wouldn't necessarily, if you don't move, you're not going to call them out again in 12 months time necessarily. The other thing that we've not really talked about.
Place.
Pardon?
Sorry, I've just had a thought. You might move to a different house or property, which you have different.
Go on.
And then it wouldn't be relevant.
But it also, hopefully, it's a little bit of an educational thing as well that would be specific to my lifestyle that I thought would be paying for a length of time. But also wondered whether when they talk, and this is the thing that is relevant always, I think, when they talk to that up to 300. So if, for example, somebody lived in a flat, a 1-bedroom flat, for example, or somebody lives in something much bigger, your ability to save will vary. So some people maybe could save beyond the 300. I don't know, but that's why I was, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that all makes a lot of sense. Brilliant. Okay, I'll just tell you how much it does cost. So the price that they're currently considering is £99 for this service. So could everyone let me whether that feels like good value or bad value? Just if you feel strongly that feels like the right price.
It's a bit high, day and age.
Okay. Why is that? I mean, you've already talked a little bit about it, but why specifically £99 too high?
Well, I did say I would pay £100 and £50 would be a bargain.
Yeah.
But it does. I don't know the idea of £95. And now I've just what the gentleman just said, and you only get up to £300 back. I find it not good value, but it's got good and bad points to it. At the moment, it's a lot of money. I can't afford that at the moment.
Okay.
But it's got potential, yes, but it's not something I could spend right now.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
I think you'd need to know the numbers a little bit and I take on board everything people are saying. So, for example, even if some people could afford and didn't shirk £100, if you're going to save 30, do you know what I mean? You've got to save £130 to make anything worthwhile to get your money back. If they said, we can save you £130, you go, only £30 better off for all this hassle, which some people still would do. But what even if you're only going to ever be saved 105? That now you're doing all of that for £5. I don't know. But then equally, some people could spend 100 and still be £200 better off.
Yeah.
I think if I was a homeowner, I wouldn't even consider balking at the price. I'd pay it because it's a long-term benefit for yourself. Because I'm renting, it's got to be some kind of responsibility of the landlord.
That's right.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, very final question for me. I know we're over time, but is there anything that you might benchmark that price against? If you saw that price and you thought £99, is that worth it? Well, I pay whatever for this other service, so maybe it might be worthwhile to pay this price for that service. Is there any other services, anything else that you might benchmark this price against?
No.
No.
I mean, yeah. No. Okay. No, that's fine. Brilliant. Okay. Well, that is everything from me. So thank you very much for paying attention so late in the evening. And it's been really interesting. It's been really useful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discover what they decide to do. Brilliant. Anyway, thanks very much, guys. Have a lovely evening.
Nice to meet you all.